The doorbell chimed like a death knell, cutting through the thick air of our dining room where the turkey sat steaming, untouched, and my stepfather's hand still hovered midair after the slap that had left my cheek burning. I stood there, frozen, tasting the metallic tang of blood from where my lip had split, while my mother clutched her pearl necklace like it was a lifeline. We weren't expecting anyone, not on this Thanksgiving. Not in the sprawling Austin estate, where appearances were everything and secrets were buried deeper than the roots of the ancient oaks outside. But there she was, striding in behind my mother, a woman in her late 50s with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun, carrying a sleek black briefcase that screamed authority. "Good evening," she said, her voice calm but edged like a blade. "I'm Victoria Lang, managing partner at Lang and Associates. I represent the estate of Edward Thompson, your grandfather." "Sophia. My name is Sophia Reed, and, at 31, I'd clawed my way to a stable life as a graphic designer in downtown Austin, far from the gilded cage of my mother's world. The drive from my modest loft to their hill country mansion had felt like crossing into enemy territory, especially after the tense phone calls lately, where Mom's voice had quivered whenever my stepfather, Victor, was mentioned.
Now,
here we were, the facade cracking before the pie was even served. Victor rose from his seat at the head of the table, his broad shoulders tensing under his tailored shirt, the kind of man who built his tech real estate fortune on handshakes and hidden clauses. "This is a family holiday," he growled, his Texas drawl sharpening. "Whatever this is, it can wait until Monday." Victoria didn't flinch. She placed her briefcase on the table with a deliberate thud, right beside the cranberry sauce, and snapped it open. "I'm afraid it can't, Mr.
Kane."
"Not when it involves a $7 million trust fund that's been systematically drained under your watch as co-trustee." The words hung there, heavy and impossible. I blinked, my hand still pressed to my stinging face. As the room spun, trust fund? My grandfather had died when I was 17, leaving behind a modest will, or so I'd been told. Mom had remarried Victor 5 years later, when I was 22, and he'd always positioned himself as the benevolent provider, doling out loans with strings attached. But $7 million? That kind of money could have changed everything: the student debt I'd drowned in, the freelance gigs I'd taken to afford my insulin for type 1 diabetes, the nights I'd skipped meals to stretch my paycheck. Mom's face drained of color, her manicured nails digging into the linen tablecloth. "Victoria, there must be some mistake," she whispered, but her eyes darted to Victor, pleading. He shot her a look that could curdle milk. "This is nonsense. Edward's estate was settled years ago. We handled it through our lawyers." Victoria pulled out a stack of documents, the paper crisp and official, stamped with seals that looked straight out of a courtroom drama. "Settled? Hardly. Mr. Thompson established a revocable living trust for Sophia to mature on her 28th birthday. You and Mrs. Kane were named co-trustees to oversee it until then. But instead of notifying her, you've been withdrawing funds, $6.2 million over the past 4 years. To be precise." I sink back into my chair, the world narrowing to the pounding in my ears. 4 years ago, I'd turned 28, scraping by in a shared apartment, applying for jobs while Victor lectured me about pulling myself up by my bootstraps. Mom had co-signed on that narrative, urging me to be independent, all while they
What?
Stole from me? The slap replayed in my mind, Victor's reaction when I'd pushed back on his generosity claim about a college loan that turned out to be from my own inheritance. "You hit me," I murmured, the words gaining strength. "Over money that was mine." Victor's jaw tightened, but Victoria pressed on, her voice building like a storm. "The trust was meant to provide for Sophia's future, education, home, security, Instead, we've traced transfers to your personal accounts, Mr.
Kane.
A vacation home in Lake Tahoe for $2.5 million. In your name only. Offshore investments in the Bahamas. Even gambling debts settled in Atlantic City. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Gambling? Victor, you promised that was over. He waved her off, but sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air-conditioned chill. This is a misunderstanding. Investments fluctuate. I was growing the principal for her benefit. I leaned forward, anger bubbling up through the shock. Growing it? While I rationed my meds because insurance wouldn't cover the full cost. While I drove a 15-year-old Civic that broke down twice last month. Victoria slid a bank statement across to me, her eyes meeting mine with a flicker of empathy. Sophia, your grandfather hired my firm discreetly. He suspected complications with family dynamics after your father's passing. We've been monitoring. Letters we sent you were returned unopened, intercepted. We believe. Tampering with mail. Another layer of betrayal. The turkey's aroma turned nauseating as the truth settled in. This wasn't just theft, it was a calculated erasure of my security. All to fund their lifestyle. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Sophia, honey, we were going to tell you. Victor said it was for the best. Her voice trailed off under my glare. The dinner time peace I'd hoped for shattered, replaced by a raw, exposing light. And as Victoria laid out more evidence, I felt the first sparks of something new, not fear, but fury, building toward an inevitable explosion. Victoria's words echoed in the dining room, each revelation landing like a punch. Let's review the timeline, she said, her tone measured but relentless, flipping through the folder as if narrating a thriller. The trust activated on Sophia's 28th birthday. Quarterly statements were sent to you both as trustees. But Sophia? Nothing. No notification. No access. I stared at the documents she passed me, pages of transactions. Red highlights screaming fraud. A $500,000 wire to a consulting firm owned by Victor's brother. Another $1.2 million for property improvements on their Austin mansion, which I'd always thought was bought with Victor's earnings. My grandfather's careful planning, meant to shield me after Dad's accident, twisted into this nightmare. Mom fidgeted, her diamond ring catching the chandelier light. It wasn't like that, she murmured. Victor handled the finances. I trusted him. Trusted him. The words stung more than the slap. I'd trusted her once. Too, my own mother, who'd raised me alone after Dad died in that car crash when I was 12. But then Victor came along, with his charm and his wallet. And everything changed. Family dinners became performances, my struggles dismissed as character building. Victor paced now, his loafers silent on the Persian rug. This is harassment. I'll call my attorney. But Victoria was ready, pulling out her phone. Go ahead. But no, we've already subpoenaed your banks. The evidence is ironclad. She turned to me, softening slightly. Sophia. The trust included penalties for breach of duty, triple damages, plus interest. We're looking at full restitution of the original $7 million, adjusted for inflation and losses. The number hit me again, millions. Enough to pay off my loans, start my own design firm, maybe even travel without checking prices. But it wasn't just about the money, it was the years stolen. The dignity eroded. I remembered calling Mom last winter, voice breaking as I explained my car needed repairs I couldn't afford. She'd sighed, suggested a second job, all while they sipped wine in Tahoe. Why? I finally asked, locking eyes with Victor. Why take it all? He stopped pacing, his face a mask of false remorse. You were young, impulsive. that money would have vanished on bad decisions. I invested it wisely, real estate.
Stocks.
It's grown. Grown for whom? Victoria countered with a property deed. Like this condo in Miami? Purchased 6 months ago for $800,000. Titled to your daughter from your first marriage. Mom's head snapped up. Your daughter? Victor. You said that was a business flip. The cracks widened. Victor's first family, the one he rarely mentioned, suddenly in the spotlight. It's complicated, he muttered. But I saw it, the web of lies unraveling. My diabetes had flared up during those lean years. I'd skipped specialist visits to save cash, risking complications. They'd known. Or should have. Mom had even sent care packages, generic meds, and coupons while hiding this fortune. The tension built, my chest tightening as emotions dunned. You let me suffer, I said to Mom, voice low. For what? A bigger house? Designer clothes? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know the extent. Victor assured me. But her excuses rang hollow. Victoria pressed on, detailing forged signatures on withdrawal forms, my name scrawled in Victor's hand. Identity theft, she explained. A felony. Victor's composure cracked. He slammed a fist on the table, rattling the silverware. Enough. This is family business. We'll settle it privately. But privacy was his weapon, the veil he'd used to control us. I stood, adrenaline surging. No more secrets. I want everything back, every cent, every lie exposed. The room pulsed with unspoken accusations. The holiday meal a forgotten relic. As Victoria outlined next steps, a lawsuit, asset freezes, I felt the shift. The victim becoming the avenger. But beneath the rage, a deeper ache. How had love turned to this? Mom reached out again, whispering my name, but I turned away. The explosion was coming, and when it hit, nothing would be the same. Days blurred into weeks after that fateful dinner. The mansion's grandeur now a prison of paperwork and pointed silences. I'd moved back to my loft, but sleep evaded me, haunted by flashbacks, the slap, Victoria's arrival, Mom's tear-streaked face. Victor had lawyered up immediately, his high-powered firm firing off cease and desist letters. But Victoria was a force, countering with injunctions that froze their accounts. We're building the case, she told me over coffee in her sleek downtown office. The Austin skyline mocking the chaos below. Forensic accountants are tracing every dollar. I nodded. But inside, doubt gnawed. Was I destroying my family for money?
No.
I reminded myself it was justice. The trust wasn't just cash, it was Grandpa's legacy. His way of ensuring I thrived after Dad's death. He'd been a quiet engineer, saving meticulously, suspecting Mom's vulnerabilities. Discovery revealed horrors. Emails between Victor and his banker, discussing creative accounting to hide withdrawals. A $300,000 payment to a Vegas casino, labeled as educational expenses. Mom's involvement stung deepest. She'd signed off on half the transactions. Her looping signature, a betrayal in ink. I thought it was routine, she confessed during a tense call. Her voice fragile. Victor said you'd get it all eventually. Eventually. While I battled burnout at my job, designing logos for pennies. My boss had noticed my distraction, offering unpaid leave, but I pushed through, channeling anger into work. Friends urged therapy. I booked sessions, unpacking layers of resentment. It's grief, the counselor said, for the family you thought you had. Victor tried reconciliation, a mediated meeting at a neutral hotel conference room. He arrived polished, Mom trailing like a shadow. His lawyer, a slick type named Harlan, laid out offers, partial repayment, no admission of guilt. Let's keep this civil, Harlan said. But Victoria dismantled it. Civil? Like the civil fraud suit we're filing. She projected spreadsheets onto the wall, red lines everywhere. Here's $1.5 million funneled to your crypto ventures. Mr.
Kane.
Ventures that tanked. Victor flushed. High risk, high reward. Mom interjected, eyes pleading. Sophia, we're family. This could ruin us. Ruin them? I'd been ruined emotionally, financially. The session devolved. Victor accused me of greed. I fired back about his control. You married Mom for her connections, then stole from me to fund your ego. Mom sobbed, admitting partial knowledge. I was scared. Victor threatened divorce if I questioned him. Back home, I pored over Grandpa's old letters. Yellowed pages full of wisdom. Trust your gut. Kiddo, one read. Family's blood, but loyalty's earned. His foresight hit hard. He'd embedded clauses for oversight. Hiring Victoria's firm anonymously. As assets were seized, the Tahoe home, Victor's Porsche, the pressure mounted. Mom called daily, alternating pleas and accusations. Your father would hate this division. But Dad had taught honesty. This honored him. Emotions stunned, slow realization of the theft's depth, building to bursts of rage in therapy. One night, I confronted Victor alone at a park bench. Rain drizzling. Why me?
He sighed.
You reminded me of my failures, independent, unlike my kids. A glimpse of vulnerability. But too late. The case escalated. FBI got involved over wire fraud. Victor's empire cracked. Partners distancing. I felt empowered, yet hollow. The explosion loomed, court date set, truths to air publicly. But in quiet moments, I wondered, could forgiveness coexist with justice? The courtroom loomed like a coliseum. Fluorescent lights buzzing over polished wood where truths would clash. It was 3 months post-Thanksgiving, and the civil suit had snowballed into a spectacle, media sniffing around Victor's crumbling empire.
You set beside Victoria?
My suit borrowed, but my resolve ironclad. Mom was across the aisle, next to Victor and Harlan, her face gaunt from sleepless nights. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with wire-rimmed glasses, called order. Proceed with opening statements. Victoria rose, her voice steady. Your Honor, this is a story of betrayal. Sophia Reed's grandfather entrusted $7 million for her future. The defendants, as trustees, embezzled it for personal gain. She detailed the evidence: forged docs, hidden accounts, even a secret slush fund in Panama. Harlan countered slickly. A family misunderstanding. Mr. Kane invested wisely. Any losses were market-driven. But as witnesses testified, the facade crumbled. The banker admitted pressure from Victor to backdate transfers. Mom took the stand, trembling. I signed what he told me, she said, glancing at me. I regret it every day. Cross-examination was brutal. Victoria exposed her complicity. You knew Sophia struggled. Medical bills.
Rent.
Yet you withheld her inheritance. Mom broke down. I was weak, afraid of losing everything. Victor's turn was explosive. He denied intent, but emails read aloud painted greed. Hide it from the kid, one said.
She's not ready.
The gallery murmured. I gripped the bench. Emotions surging, slow burn of hurt igniting into fury. Twists emerged. Victor's gambling addiction. Confirmed by casino records, $400,000 lost. Paid from the trust. Mom gasped. She believed his sobriety. Then, a bombshell. Harlan presented a forged incompetency form, claiming I was unfit at 28 due to emotional instability. Lies, I whispered. Victoria pounced. Handwriting experts confirmed Victor's forgery. even mimicking Mom's signature. Perjury, the judge noted. Mom confronted him in recess, voice rising. You forged my name? Made me think I'd betrayed her worse? Victor shrugged. Necessary. The betrayal deepened, their marriage fractured before my eyes. Settlement talks resumed in chambers. Victor offered $5 million. Take it, Harlan urged. But Victoria held firm. Full restitution, $10.5 million with damages. Assets liquidated. The mansion sold. Business shares transferred. Victor cracked, admitting defeat to avoid criminal charges. You win, he snarled at me. But victory felt bittersweet. Mom signed separately, liquidating her hidden savings, $600,000 from an aunt. My safety net, she said tearfully. But you deserve it. As papers were inked, emotions peaked. Relief. Grief. A cathartic release.
Outside.
Rain poured. I hugged Victoria. It's over. But scars remained. Trust shattered. Family redefined. The Dunning tension exploded into fragile peace. Leaving questions. Could we rebuild? The ink dried on the settlement, but the echoes lingered like smoke after a fire. 2 weeks later, transfers hit my account. First $4 million from property sales, then chunks from stocks and overseas holdings. I stared at the app, numbers blurring through tears. No more rationing insulin. No more freelance desperation. I quit my job gracefully, giving notice amid colleagues' cheers. Starting my own agency, I told them. Graphic design with a focus on nonprofits Grandpa would have approved. Therapy became weekly, unpacking the betrayal's layers. It's okay to grieve the family lost, my counselor said. Mom reached out tentatively, a coffee meetup in a neutral cafe. She looked smaller without the mansion's armor. Sipping latte with shaking hands. I filed for divorce, she confessed. Victor's toxicity. I see it now. We talked haltingly, her fears, my pain. No easy forgiveness, but a bridge forming. I chose wrong, she admitted. Can you ever?
Time.
I said. Therapy for her too. Victor vanished into obscurity. His business dissolved. Partners suing for fraud. Whispers of FBI probes followed. He avoided prison by cooperating on unrelated cases. A call from his estranged son surprised me. Thanks for exposing him. Freed us all. Empowerment rippled outward. I bought a modest home in Austin suburbs. Kept my old Civic as a reminder. Grandpa's letter, delivered by Victoria, sealed the healing. My girl, if betrayal comes, rise above. Your strength is your true inheritance. His words fueled my new venture, Redesigns. Launching with fanfare. First client, a diabetes foundation.
Pro bono.
Months passed, Thanksgiving returned, but solo, takeout, and reflection. No more facades. Mom joined for Christmas. Tentative steps toward mending. Proud of you, she said, eyeing my thriving office. The money revealed characters. Victor's greed. Mom's weakness. My resilience. But it also bought freedom to create, to heal, to question. What if they'd been honest? Would I be this strong? The story closed not with triumph's bang, but a quiet whisper. Betrayal forges, but choice rebuilds. In the end, was justice worth the fracture? Or was the real inheritance the wisdom to ask?